Joining us now, Carly Fiorina. Carly ran for president as a Republican in 2016. We got to spend some time with her during the campaign, especially in New Hampshire. And she then, for a day, was Ted Cruz's vice presidential pick when he was still in the race. And she also ran for U.S. Senate as a Republican in California in 2010, right? I got that right. Okay, 2010, losing to Barbara Boxer, now a Virginia resident, and we believe a likely candidate for U.S. Senate in Virginia, which will be decided in most likely a primary, not a convention, in 2018. Now that I get all that out, Carly Fiorina, good to have you with us.
John, great to be back with you. And
okay, now
a resident of Virginia. You know,
that's
I
right, a
out
resident.
Here with my husband 30 plus years ago, so we're happy to be back.
Now, look, is this where you met your husband?
Yes, after I got out of the secretarial pool and finally got an MBA, I landed in AT&T in downtown Washington, D.C. in 1980 as an entry-level salesperson, and that's where I met my husband. And when we were married, we lived in Manassas, Virginia, and our daughters have, gone to public school and public universities. Our granddaughters are doing the same. We lived here a long time. We consider ourselves Virginians, and so we were happy to move back home almost 6 years ago now.
Now, Carly, you didn't tell me that you started out in sales, like
yes,
I did, right? You started out in sales.
Salesperson for the big bad Bell system, as it used to be called, 1 million employees selling to the federal government, by the way. So I've been in and around the federal government a very, very long time. And that's why I know how unbelievably bureaucratic and inefficient and sometimes corrupt and incompetent it can be.
A lot of corruption and a lot of incompetence and a lot of leaks. Look, Carly Fiorina, we have a lot to talk about today. We're excited to have you on. I don't know where to start, so let's just start with Saturday morning, 6:35. We all wake up, bang, tweet storm, President of the United States, saying that he believes that there was surveillance going on in Trump Tower. Now, we can forget the words about President Obama was behind it or not. In order to get the surveillance, somebody would have had to sign a warrant. Otherwise, it's illegal and people go to jail. So you have to assume that it went through a FISA judge. Maybe they shopped it. Somebody signed it. We don't know the outcome of it. You also have to think, well, he's a president of the United States, so he can get access to this information by picking up the phone and asking anybody that's qualified to give him the answer whether or not this happened. I couldn't imagine he would send these tweets out without some background information. What do you make of this whole thing?
Well, I will say today what I've been saying for almost a month now. This Russia rumor, scandal, intrigue, whatever you want to call it, the set of accusations that Russia was somehow involved in our election and that somehow Trump people were engaged with it, it isn't going away. And it's not going away because it's in the Democrats' interest to keep it out there. And it's not going away because it's in the media's interest to keep it out there. And so what I've said to my Republican colleagues on the Hill and in public is the Republicans cannot let the Democrats own this issue or use this issue as a weapon. And so what congressional leadership ought to do and what President Trump ought to welcome, and I think he called for it, is a full and thorough investigation from top to bottom in a way that no one can question, follow the facts wherever they lead, and get the facts out to the American public. It is the rumor, the innuendo, the constant reporting. This isn't healthy for our democracy, and we understand the motivations of the Democrats. So Republicans have got to own this, get to the bottom of it, not be afraid of it, follow the facts, and let the American people know exactly what happened here.
Okay, so you call for an investigation. When I was on CNN the other night, I called for an independent prosecutor, an independent commission like the 9/11 Commission to just get the bottom of this and put it to bed. So we're on the same page there. Are you calling for an independent commission or just having this go through the Senate or the House?
Well, I think what we need is something that no one can question. And so that may well mean an independent commission or a special prosecutor. I wouldn't make that judgment sitting here talking with you on the radio, but what I would advise congressional leadership is make sure whatever you do is beyond reproach. That whatever you do, anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Joe Q citizen out there can look at it and say, you know what, I believe this body. I believe the facts they're putting out there. Remember, John, and I understand completely why you call for an independent commission. Remember, the independent commission idea on 9/11 was originally very much criticized by the Bush administration because the genesis of it was accusations that somehow the Bush administration had orchestrated 9/11, that Saudi Arabia was engaged in some untoward activity helped by the White House. I mean, it was all these rumors and innuendo, and finally the Bush White House and congressional leadership stood up and did the right thing and said, you know what, we've got to get to the bottom of it, and the American people have to trust that whatever we find is really all there is. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we are with this.
Well, you're so right. You nailed it. And the Bush White House did fight the independent commission and the special prosecutor for a long time. But look what happened, right? It was above reproach. They put a former governor of New Jersey and a good friend of mine, by the way, they put Tom Kaine as the head of that. They put Governor Gilmore was on it. And what did it do? It exonerated the president and his administration from any wrongdoing. Now, you know, there were obviously things they could have done better, but it stopped the rumors and it exonerated them totally, right?
That's exactly
that was the outcome.
Right. And so it's why I've been saying this for a month to, again, my colleagues up on the Hill. Don't be afraid of this. Don't resist it. Don't get into partisan bickering back and forth. You and I talked about this last time I was on your show, John. The rumors aren't going to stop. The leaks aren't going to stop. This is the stuff of Washington. And it's particularly the stuff of the Democratic Party right now and the media that enables them. So don't run away from it. Run towards it. Deal with it. Investigate it. And report out on it.
Right, exactly. So let's have an independent commission. Let's have a special prosecutor. Part of the investigation can be what was the surveillance that went on at Trump Tower, who was involved. And look, I know for a fact I've talked to so many people in there. Carly, as you know, I was involved in that campaign since way before it started. And they are telling me there's nobody I knew there that had any contacts with any foreign government. Corey Lewandowski, their campaign manager, was there from January 15 to the end of June 16, 18 months. He said nobody in his organization ever talked to anybody. Kellyanne said the same way starting in September when she took over. So basically, you've got a 60-day window when Paul Manafort was there. Let's investigate it. Let's find out what happened. If one of the agencies, NSA, CIA, went to a FISA judge and got them to sign surveillance, we ought to know what that evidence is. All that should come out. I think when it does, the president's going to get exonerated, and whatever charges that he made is all going to come out. And so, you know what? When you have the truth at your back, you have nothing to fear at all in getting it out because the truth will set you free. I don't think there's any other option but an independent commission and a special prosecutor that nobody can then question the partisanship behind it, right?
Well, exactly. And the other thing that I would say, John, is, yes, the truth shall set you free. And we all hope and believe that there is nothing here in the truth that would do anything but exonerate the administration. On the other hand, it's also fair to say that the truth will come out one way or another. I mean, if there's anything we now know with the technology that's available, with WikiLeaks, with governments using cyber technology for their own purposes, the truth is going to come out. It's only a matter of time. And so rather than allow it to drip, drip, drip out whatever it is and get spun and used by adversaries for their own purposes, flush it all out now and deal with it and get on with it, because this is a distraction hanging over the administration that the American people, not to mention President Trump, don't need.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. Carly Fiorina, let's get to Obamacare Light. I'm going to call it like I see it. That's what I do. You know that. What they rolled out yesterday from leadership. Here's my first question. Look, you were the CEO of a major company for a long time, right? I mean, these congressional leadership had 72 months to come up with something. Basically, what they rolled out yesterday, a permanent entitlement, a quasi-permanent allowance of the states that took the money for Medicaid expansion, money for the states that didn't take it, $10 billion through 2020. They're doing nothing to address the long-term costs so the costs don't come down. Buying insurance across state lines, not in the replacement plan. And then you've got the entitlements going from subsidies to something called tax credit, which reminds me of Bill Clinton's earned income tax credit. This is what they came up with. It's basically Obamacare tweak light. What do you make of this thing?
Well, first, John, I share your frustration that Republicans have had 6 years to come up with a plan. And I have to say, I am disappointed that they didn't have a plan, a legislative plan, on President-elect Trump's desk in Trump Tower on day one of the transition. Or at the very least, a plan on the president's desk. Here's how we're going to approach this. Here's the way we're going to deal with our legislative strategy. Here's the principles and the details of the bill that we hope to get to your desk for your signature. I'm disappointed by that because they had a long time to think about this and to plan for this. On the other hand, at least now they have started the process. And as you know, the legislative process is messy, it's contentious, it's intended to be that way by our founders. It's not intended to be easy. But at least this is a starting point. And so I'm relieved they have finally put this out there. By the way, I share your concerns. Look, the American people forget that one of the reasons we got into the mess that we're into with Obamacare is because government has always been in health care. Initially, for 50 years, it was state governments that were into health care, and it was they that regulated insurance companies, and it was state governments that said, no, we don't want competition across lines. And, of course, they were, let's use a dirty word, but it's true, they were colluding with insurance companies because insurance companies didn't want to have to compete against state lines. So we have had government engaged in health care for decades. What we did with Obamacare, what the Democrats did, was basically take that government-regulated system and nationalize it. And so instead of making things better, it made things demonstrably worse. The only answer here, ultimately, is to get government out of it. This is the furthest thing from a free market that we've ever seen. But at least the Republicans have put a plan on the table now, and now the process can start. And I hope the process will start with great energy and intensity, and the objections that you are raising will be raised, already are being raised by conservatives, but let's start the debate and get a plan to the president.
Well, let's start the debate. I mean, I think what they sent up, and I've said this over and over, I have no problem with finding a way to go forward with an entitlement for the 15 million people that have insurance that either are not paying for it, didn't have it, and now it's being highly subsidized, even if it's a 10-year phase-out, as long as you're doing something to structurally change the cost curve and bend it down. And that's what I was looking for in this plan, and I saw nothing.
Exactly. And
it's
only
almost
way
like this plan
structurally change the cost curve and bend it down is to remove government from this system. You actually have to create competition and incentives for improving costs and incentives around improving quality of care. And today in these government regulated programs, there are no incentives to improve costs. That's true in Medicare, it's true in Medicaid, it's true in the Affordable Care Act, and there are no incentives to improve the quality of care. You're absolutely right. There has to be structural change to the system, and we'll see if the Republicans can come up with a plan that actually does that.
You know what, Curly? I think those in leadership that concocted this plan, the revolution we just had passed them by. I don't think they were around. Okay, I got a question from Aaron in Fairfax. Says, tell me why a Virginia, and I know you don't want to get into the Senate race, but I do have to ask this. Why would a Virginian vote for Carly Fiorina, and what will you do to turn the northern part of Virginia red should you decide to run for U.S. Senate from Virginia?
Wow, Aaron ought to be a reporter. You know, I mean, that is one hypothetical on top of another. Look, let me just say this. I believe that most people are Republicans, but they don't know it. I truly believe that. And the reason I believe that is because I think the vast majority of Virginians will agree when I say the following three things. Number one, everyone has more potential than they realize. Everyone has the potential to live a life of dignity and purpose and meaning. But number two, you can't live a life of dignity unless you have a job. Second, people are capable of solving the problems that impact them. They don't need people 3,000 miles away trying to solve those problems for them. The problems we have in Virginia can be solved by Virginians. Of course, people need tools and training and support and resources and a helping hand. But people are best equipped to solve the problems that impact them instead of looking to someone else who doesn't really understand the problem to solve it for them. And third, power concentrated is power abused, always. I don't care whose hands it in. If you concentrate too much money and power in too few hands for too long, that power will be abused. Those three common sense things I just said are the core of constitutional conservatism. They are the core of my political philosophy. And they are what most people believe if they sit and think about it and take it out of partisan politics. It's why I say I think most people are Republicans. They just don't know it. The people of Northern Virginia need to have enough jobs. They need to be in charge of their own destiny. So whether it's the northern suburbs of Virginia or the southwest parts of Virginia or anywhere else in the country, what I always mean to do is talk to people in common sense language about what they know to be true about human nature, about the problems that impact them, about what leadership really is. And leadership is about the courage to tackle problems that have festered a long time. It's about the character to understand that the ends do not justify every means. It's about realizing that all problem solving is a huge team effort. And it's about understanding that you can't solve festering problems unless you see possibilities and believe those problems can be solved. That's how I've talked all my life. It's how I've led in business and charity, how I ran my campaign for president. And if and when I decided to run for the Senate in Virginia, that's how I would talk to the people of Virginia.
All right, well, I think you ought to run.
Well, you've been clear on that, John.
Run.
Thank you for saying that, and thanks, Aaron.
Look, I think you should run
as well.
I think you should run. I think you'd be a fabulous candidate in Virginia, and I think you would. The debates between you and Senator Kaine are going to go down in history, and I think would be a very good thing for the Commonwealth of Virginia to get the kind of choice that you would bring to the equation. And I think if you run, I think you can win. So that's my 2 cents on it. We're out of time. I want to thank Carly Fiorina for being with us, likely candidate for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate for Virginia in 2018. More information, here's what you do. Go to carlyfiorina.com, carlyfiorina.com. Carly Fiorina today calling for a independent commission and special prosecutor. Am I right? Is that accurate?
I'm calling for the type of investigation that no one can question. And if that means an independent commission, so be it. If it means a special prosecutor, so be it. But we have to have a full investigation now that is above reproach and above partisan bickering. And the Republicans need to own it.
So is it fair for me to say that you're calling for an independent commission and a special prosecutor because that's the only way to get to your goal?
Well, look, I don't object to that characterization. I'm going to leave it to congressional leadership and the administration to decide how to structure an investigation will be above reproach. My basic point is this now has to be investigated from top to bottom Republicans should not be afraid of it. And when they're done with the investigation, whatever form they decide it should take, no one can say, not the Democrats, not the media, no one can say that it wasn't a full and fair investigation. And certainly an independent commission is one way of accomplishing that.
Oh, that's what I needed. Thank you. One way of accomplishing that. Thank you. It only took me 20 minutes to figure this out, but I finally got it. Thank you for that. See, sometimes you got to ask the same question 3 ways. 3 is a charm. Carly Fiorina, thank you for being with us.
Yes,
Go to carlyfiorina.com.
A special prosecutor is another, but certainly an independent commission is one way to get to the bottom of it, no question.
You're coming over to my way of thinking. That's why I think you should run for the Senate. You're going to be great.
I know we're out of time. I would just say one of the things, the factors that are going to have to get weighed, a special prosecutor can do more of their work in private. A special commission can turn into a political sideshow. Those are some of the considerations that need to be thought through. I think speed is of the essence here, honestly.
Right.
I don't think we can be talking about this.
That's why we need a special prosecutor. See, I talked you into it over the course of 20 minutes, and I could be persuasive.
Oh, you started out with an independent commission.
Well, we have to evolve, right? Life is conversations and involvement. Now, that's what we just said. Look, we started out with an independent commission, and both of us arrived at a special prosecutor in the course of 20 minutes. That's why you love coming on my show. We'll be right back. Go to carlyfiorina.com.